Alright, here we are with the cleaned up spreadsheet. If you follow my instructions, it'll look exactly the same, but this is, remember, part 2, version 2, right? And so the very first exercise in this workshop was to operate on Mortimer loans, Marita, Marita loans part 2, version 1, which didn't contain the dashboard tab, and it didn't contain, if I go to Q2, it didn't contain this region drop down list box, because this is the activity we want to do firstly. So we want to actually create this drop down list box for people to use in this column. So I'm actually going to delete this. So I'm rolling back, so it's effectively so we can do the exercise for part 1. And I know in the dashboard this didn't exist. Rather than me going to the document and typing these regions in, I'm going to copy these and just paste them here. Right click, paste special values, right? Or I could alternatively I could go right click, paste values, right? So I'm just going to paste the values, so I've got them for reference. Why am I doing this? Good question, right? Is because this is referencing, each one of these cells is actually referencing the data in the reference sheet, which at the moment what I'm going to do is go like this and delete or clear contents. Clear contents. So we won't get any errors at the moment, because what I need to do finally is to make this look like version 1 is I'll highlight column T and delete column T. So now we're ready to do the exercise for the drop down list box. Right? So here we go. Okay. Firstly, why do we need drop down list boxes? Right? So if I've got information where I have to type in, like this guy here, first home loan, first home buyer, commercial investor. If I have to type first home loan buyer several thousand times down in this column, I know sooner or later I'm actually going to make a mistake, right? Or whoever's entering the data will start thinking, oh, I'm going to do this in my own way, and that is I'll start typing first instead of first, and so forth, right? So what happens is that the data then becomes inconsistent, which means what we want is for consistency. I'm going to hit escape here. Right? What we want for consistency is to make sure that the data is always the same, and the best way to do that is make sure that the person who is entering this data gets a choice to pick from a list, for drop down list box, rather than having to type all the information in. Right? So that's the reason. And while I'm looking at you here, I actually see an error. You probably saw it as well. If you have a look, commercial, and this guy commercial actually has a space in there, which is an error in the data, which would have caused us problems. And it's a good example of it, because if it was in a drop down list box, that space would not even be there, right? Which causes problems in our calculations. We would have missed calculations of 68,000 and so forth if we were doing matches on client type, right? So anyway, it just showed you why it was good for drop down list boxes. And obviously here I've just modified the data, so hit enter, right? So it saves it, and I can see now I'm consistent. If I look at the data all the way down, no spaces, good. Okay, so let's do the data validation. I want the data validation to be inserted between these two columns. So I'm going to highlight this guy, go right click insert, which will insert a column, and the exercise says we want a column called region, right? And the region in here will be a list, which is this list here. Rather than me typing it in, I'm just going to do this, right click, copy, and I'm going to paste it into this into this column here. I'm actually going to call it region rather than graphical or geographical, something, you know, because it's a good idea to have consistency with your data. So I'm going to call this regions, is my heading, and I know in this area here I want the regions like northern, western and so forth to actually be copied into, right? So I'll just tab across so you can see a little bit better. So here, if I do a straight paste of data, oh, sorry, I have to go back, copy, right click, copy. If I go to here and I just do a straight paste of the values, you see that they actually go horizontally, right? And any of the others will do the same thing. But if I do a transpose, which I'll do here, I'll show you. Right click, paste special, transpose values, right? So transpose means that any of my horizontal data will actually be flipped to be vertical, right? So I'll do paste, and there are my regions. I've now pasted the horizontal, this horizontal stuff. I've pasted it into a list, right? And now again, we want this to be consistent, so a person comes in, sees this as a table of data. I'll just copy the format. That's my regions, and I know that here is my regions data, and I want that to be consistent with the same colouring, so I've picked my colour. There it is. Now instead of using this as a list of T2 to T5 and then having to worry about $, I could name the region by putting a name in here in the region box. But let's do the exercise so you see what range names actually are. So let's go and include here the validation. So what I want here is data validation. It's the one with the green tick box and so forth. No need to do this, right? Go to the arrow. You can just click directly on the button there, right? So in E2, I want to see a list, okay? A list. And the source of my list, I would go and highlight the data that I want. So here, the source is here. And remember, this is the data is now locked in that region, so it's already showing me $2, right? It's saying that it's absolute, and when I do a fill, this region will not, or the range will not actually move down and give me a blank list, right? So here I can actually say OK, and now you can see that I have the list in the very first cell, right? The second cells and so forth, now this has to be copied into, and alternatively you can double click here or do the fill, because we know that we're using absolute referencing for our table of data, the list. So you can double click there the quick way, or you can do another method, is to actually right click and copy this guy, highlight where I want the lists. So I've highlighted where I want the drop-down list boxes to be appended. Do a right-click, paste special, and this time, instead of values or formulas, we just paste validation. So the validation which we created in E2 will now be pasted or copied into all these highlighted cells. So go OK, and now you can see each one of these has the appropriate value. Okay, all right. So if we want to populate this, we'll do that in a second. What you would have to do is open up one of the other, like number 3 file, and then we just paste it in. But we can do that in the break. I'll let you guys do that afterwards. All right. So that's data validation, right? Where are we? And here, I'm actually going to get rid of this guy, right? And I know within my table here for summaries, I want each one of the regions to be pasted or to be linked here. So I would just go dynamic link to the reference sheet. So dynamic link means equals, what do I want to show in this cell, reference, and I want to show this guy here, T2. All right, okay. And alternately, because it's horizontal, you literally have to do the hard yards and go and finish these things off. And go Western, and here equals. Okay, Southeastern, the last one equals Outer Eastern. Right, so now I have reference data all the way along for my summary, which is ready for the next exercise. Right? To get the data back here for the regions, you'd have to open the spreadsheet number 3, copy the column, and paste values into this this spreadsheet here. So